Hello, hello to all my fabulous change makers. And we are here today with another amazing interview of somebody who is here to play her part in changing the world. Welcome, Jamie Copeland. I'm so happy to have you with us. Tell people who you are and a little about what makes you so amazing.
Well, thank you for that beautiful introduction. And I am Jamie Copeland. Yep. I am the founder and CEO of Strategic U. And we're a company that helps families with kiddos with ADHD. And our mission, and I do call it a mission because it's more than just your everyday therapy, it's more than just your everyday um, community, touching base on ADHD. We are here to really change what ADHD looks like in this world today.
Mm.
And we are really on a mission just to help these kids understand they have so many strengths within them and they get to utilize those strengths.
Love that. Well, and I know when we were talking the other day, you were talking from a history kind of space in terms of, who we wouldn't have half the inventions we have today if it wasn't for people who had ADHD. Isn't that right?
Very true. I really just had this feeling like, first of all, I'm touched with ADHD because my son has it. So I'm going to just back up and say a little bit about that part because this is why this has been my passion.
Yes.
I do have a background in psychology, so I'm fortunate in that. I've been able to really study up a lot more on ADHD itself. But going back to your question, um, I had this thought of I see the brilliance in my son. And I feel sometimes like I'm the only person in the world who really sees him, and I'm sure that parents out there can absolutely relate to this that have kiddos with ADHD.
Hmm.
And I was just like, what is it about schools today or the world today that feels like ADHD is such a problem? And how did they feel back in history when it came to this? So I looked it up. I did a deep dive into it, and I found that before industrialization came in America and in the world as well, ADHD traits, of course, it wasn't called ADHD then, right? So the traits of ADHD is all we have to go off on.
Hmm.
Were actually seen as those people were looked at as gifted or touched by God. And you can look back at many of our great inventors in the past and know that they actually had ADHD. Think Einstein, think Tesla, think, I cannot think of the man's name still that made the radio, but they actually sent him to an insane asylum
Oh my
because of it.
goodness. Yeah,
Yeah.
Thomas Edison is in that crew, and, yeah, and I've even heard Henry Ford. I mean, we're talking
Yes.
about captains of industry, for gosh sakes.
Philosophers, even like so many people back in the day, they were actually celebrated for having these traits. And today it's like they're being squashed, which, I don't knock, of course, any of our teachers or anybody that works with ADHD by any means because they can only go off of what they're learning. But that is what we're on a mission to change is to help people really understand, no, these children are brilliant. They just learn a different way because they have a different wiring of the brain, but they're here for a purpose because they are our next engineers. They are our next entrepreneurs and our next generation of those that are just bringing about massive change in this world. I like to call them world changers.
Yes, yes, I call them change makers, so yes,
Yeah.
we're on the same page for sure. So tell us a little bit more, about the difference in learning styles of people who have been told they have ADHD.
Yeah, sure. So, in a neurotypical brain, so neurotypical is a person that doesn't have ADHD for those that may not know. And then there's the neurodivergent brain. But in a neurotypical brain, it's easy for them to sit in a classroom and sit down and do their worksheets or sit there quietly and just be able to listen to a lecture. But in a neurodivergent brain, they're more of the type, and funny enough, we talked about this recently too, but they're more of the type that's like, I don't want to sit here and have death by worksheet. I want to actually do the things. I want to be able to do the things with them because they're kinesthetic learners, they're
Yes.
visual learners. They're not the type that can sit down, sit still because their brain is constantly active. They're
Mhm.
constantly wanting to be able to get out there and figure it out. One of the things about my son since he was really little that was really bothersome to some was he would love to take things apart to figure out how they worked and then put them back together. And
Oh,
he
that's
didn't always figure it out, you know what I mean? But that was just the way that his brain worked.
yep.
And that's a part of his genius.
That's
So being able to bring about more of an understanding in the way that their brains work and really changing the trajectory of how they are taught, even in schools or in homeschooling or in any way, so that people really start to understand how to get through to these kids to help them to succeed.
wow. Yeah, and that is so important. I was just thinking of a gentleman who lives here in North Carolina, and his name is escaping me right now, but he is absolutely one of those that you're speaking of because he's a motivational speaker now, and he always used to say, "Yeah, when I was in school, I was always told I was supposed to sit down and shut up, and now I stand on stages and speak for a living. How crazy was that?"
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, we have 4 strengths that we really focus on within Strategic U. We've got hyperactivity, creativity, resilience, and why am I forgetting that last one? Adaptability. There we go. And each person really kind of hones to one of those strengths over the other. Of course, they have all of them, right? But we
Mhm,
all are individuals. So you think of the creative type, there are problem solvers. You think
mhm,
of the adaptability type, they're the ones that can get up and figure things out, but then move on quickly. You think of the resilience, and those are the ones that are like, okay, um, I think I got those backwards. But anyways, regardless, resilience, they're able to just adapt to or be where they're supposed to be in the moment. So how do I explain that better? I'm sorry. Um, Basically, I can really relate it best with military children because that's my background, right? They're
mhm,
extremely resilient. They're able to really just go and be who they're supposed to be or want to be in a world no matter where they're at, right?
mhm,
So, but that's a huge trait within ADHD, right? And then you've got your hyper focus, and those are the ones that can really get down deep and figure things out in a manner that most people can't, right?
mhm.
And all of them think outside the box.
Which is a good thing. We need more of that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow, I love that. I love that. Well, and I have heard, and I don't know if this is part of your experience or not, but I have heard that typically when somebody has been told they're ADHD, that when they find something they're really passionate about is when they can become really hyper focused. Is that part of your experience?
100%. So, one of my favorite people that I've worked with actually within this business, her name's Victoria Waller, and she's actually a tutor for kids with special needs.
Mhm,
And she brought this to my attention, but I've just loved really being able to understand a little bit more because she's been doing this for, oh goodness, 40 years,
mm.
so she has a lot more experience in this area than I do. um, but yes, so she will take a child and she will figure out their passions, and you can teach them anything through their passions, anything and everything, right? So, an example would be a child that she had she had one that was really interested in race cars. So she she would go through math and teach them that way, like how fast it would go. And I'm not a tutor, so don't quote me on different things here. But uh, you know, she was able to teach them through math. She was able to teach them through science that way. She was able to even find somebody that was a race car driver to come and write them letters and do different things with them. It's incredible what you can do when you figure out their passions, because when you figure those out, they can learn anything through that passion. It's incredible.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I have a letter from a high school here in North Carolina. I volunteered for a whole semester at this high school, and I brought a business plan writing competition into a classroom, and that group, it was interesting. I got a call from the principal a year later, and she wanted to know what I did with that group. And I said, "Well, I'll tell you if you tell me why you're asking." And she said, "Well, it's because that class got higher end of grade test scores than any before or after." And I said, "Well, isn't that amazing when you make the learning relevant to them?" They all wanted to be business owners, and they had to do reading, they had to do writing, they had to do arithmetic as part of all of that. And, we
Yeah.
have documentation that it actually improved their scores. So, it just blows my mind that the school systems don't embrace some of these things more.
I mean,
It's
you're
crazy.
not you're not kidding. I mean, it blows my mind too that this hasn't been figured out. I mean, really what it comes down to is
Yes.
exploratory learning. I
Yes.
mean, um, I know one of the places that my son really thrived in was Montessori when he was little, because there was so
Yes.
much exploratory within his learning,
Mhm.
and that wouldn't have been a great path for him continuing on, but when his in his younger ages, it really was, you
Mm.
know, and that is what we need to really kind of see more of in the school districts. And it's not that we're going to see change tomorrow, but this is something at Strategic U we're really working on. But where we're starting right now is we have this network that we are inviting parents into, to where we can start helping them become the pioneers in their home and in their school districts. And we have experts across the board within this network
Mhm.
that are here to help. And the reason I created this is because, hey, I'm that mama that felt extremely alone and was doing all the research by myself, trying to figure out all of these things for him to help him and make sure that he is succeeding. And did I fail along the way? 100% in many areas. I did. Did I fail him by, not understanding him at times? Yes. Yes, I am human. Hi. you know, I did. So, I mean, it's not a perfect answer, but the thing is I started to realize there are many gaps when it comes to the care for these kiddos in today's world that we live in, and we need to fill those gaps. So, what we bring you in the network is you have your school psychologist, you have your dietitian, who's also a functional medicine doctor that's really specializes in ADHD. All of them actually do. We have our social worker slash therapist. We have a parenting um, coordinator slash specialist. She is incredible as well. I mean, it's literally everything across the board in one place,
Mm.
where we are actually people who truly understand where you're at. We're not just your everyday expert that learns for 7 hours in school what ADHD is and how to be able to, you know, fix or deal with it, which is kind of how it's been seen, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but we are your experts that actually have ADHD with either in us or our children have it, so each person that is an expert is touched with ADHD in their life, has lived it 24/7. I've lived it 24/7. And that I have to credit God for that, because that wasn't even purposeful. It's just the way that it ended up being. So all of us are extremely passionate towards this movement and helping people.
Wow. Well, and I'm grateful that you were inspired to create this. So that just begs the question, was there a defining moment? Was there a specific event that you just finally said, "That's it. I'm asking God, how do I change this mess?
Yeah, there absolutely was. Oh, I can remember it vividly. I was in my kitchen and I had gotten yet another phone call from the vice principal. He was in 8th grade at the time, and it was probably midway through the second semester of the year.
Mhm.
And I cannot tell you how many phone calls I got that year. And
Mm.
they were over such minute, small things that were just like, "Are you serious right now? Like, come on, man. You are seeing everything so black and white." And I mean, I was just at my wit's end of like, you're seriously putting him in school suspension again for chewing gum or passing a note in the hallway or not being able to sit still, or one instance, which it wasn't a great instance, but when you understand ADHD, you're more like, oh, that makes sense. And it was a teacher had asked him to take from science a big bucket of water and go dump it out in the sink. Well, when you tell an ADHD child to do something, it's brain to action, it's thought to action. There is no like in between thoughts of like, how do I process this? How do I do this properly? That's not cognitively really there. They're just in a rush at all times. So he pours it out in the sink, but he dumps it out in the sink and it goes and splashes all over other children, all over the teacher, all over the place, and he gets in trouble for that too. But it was just an accumulation of so many things, that ended up because he was being put down for all of these things. And mind you, children with ADHD often hear 12 to 20,000 negative comments toward who their inner being is by the time that they are 12 years old,
Wow. Mm.
because it was a consistency of, well, you're just a troublemaker, basically, right? Is what it's telling him. You're a troublemaker. He started to really act out in worse ways.
Mm.
And I started to realize and told the vice principal this too. You keep harping on him for all of these things and you wonder why he's starting to act out in worse ways. Because you're telling him he's a bad kid and he's going to sit here and say, I'm a bad kid, so I'll just go ahead and be a bad kid. Like that's what everybody thinks anyways. And plus impulsivity comes in. So there's that factor too, right? But point being, I'm in the kitchen and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, God, I cannot do this anymore. I am losing my mind. You're going to have to help me here. This is too much. This is insane. And I have 4 other children,
Wow.
to take care of too. He's not my only one. I have 5 children total.
Oh, wow.
So I am just like at my wits' end. God could tell.
You
And
you
he's
weren't
like,
kidding.
and he was like, okay, you want to do something about this? Then you're doing something about this. And it was just like this instant download of this is what needs to be done. And, from that we will be having an app come out as well on this. But it was the craziest thing that I've ever experienced within my faith, because after I got that download, I heard audibly, go now.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
here we are. And, I've been surprised by much of what has come out of this. But God's really good at doing that, anyways.
Yes. And as long as you keep following his instructions, he will provide more.
That's very true. Very true.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm excited about what you're doing and how you're doing it and the fact that you're being just so faithfully led. That's all amazing stuff for sure. So I'm curious, tell people, do you have a big vision for where you want this to go?
Yes, I do. I know where we're going. Right now, we're just getting started. So we have the network up and running, and everyone's welcome. It's strategicucommunity.com. /network. So you can find us there and join us. And for this audience, you can join us for $30 um, right now a month. And that's your, we are just wanting to share the love for sure with everybody. So, um, and then from there with the network, we also have programs that you can join with us where you can get either individualized help or group help, excuse me, um, and be able to focus in on the areas that are really you're struggling in with your child's struggling in, all of those things. And we're here to really help in those areas. We have a strength assessment already that aligns with the assessment that goes with ADHD, and we're able to really give you an actual package of a breakdown of how to help your child through this moment and through school. And then from here, we will be moving more into actually doing some teacher workshops to help them understand this a lot more. But until that point, parents, we're here to support you through it, to help your teachers and help your administrators understand this and understand your child better. And then we will move more into the technology world, um, and so on. There's going to be so much more down the road coming. And we're so excited because this is absolutely a passion for each one of us in the Strategic Youth Network.
I love it. I love it. And, anybody who can follow their calling and get up and go, that's who I'm here to celebrate and cheerlead. So we're so glad that you've joined us and that we'll be able to stay in touch with you and hopefully be able to refer some people to you. I expect that we probably will, because there's so many parents who are struggling. And what I'm hearing you say is that you're going to create an army of advocates, and
Yeah.
that's what we need, no doubt about it. And what a beautiful grassroots kind of movement that you're creating here. So I understand that you actually want to give a gift to everybody who sees this, and so tell people, how can they reach you, and
hmm
tell them a little bit about the gift that will be in the comments under this video.
Absolutely. So you can reach me through the Facebook group page. We have Strategic Youth Community. Um, uh, our Facebook is actually just Strategic You. And then we also are, excuse me, on Instagram. You can reach me there too at Jamie K. Copeland. Feel free to send me a message anytime. I love to help everybody and speak with people and get you in the right direction. Um, and then as far as the free gift goes, we do have a free gift for all of you that is for your kiddos and you as a family, but it's called this Superpowers Affirmations for ADHD. So that will be linked in the comments with this video, as well as how you can reach me and get to the network and understand more of what we're doing.
Awesome. Sounds amazing. So wonderful, wonderful. We thank you so much for spending time with us here today. And I'm just visualizing that you have explosive growth here, helping parents and students all over the world, because that's the beauty of the internet, right? We're not confined to one little corner of it. So so much opportunity for you here without a doubt. So I'm curious, do you have any words of wisdom that you'd like to leave everybody with today?
Yes, for those of you that are parents, I just want you to know that you have done nothing wrong. Your child was perfectly and wonderfully made. Their brain wiring was perfectly and wonderfully made. Again, I'm going back to history, looking at Einstein, looking at Tesla. All of them had the same brain wiring. So embrace that. And we get to help our children to embrace that and figure out where their passion is and where they're supposed to go in this world, who they're supposed to be.
Mm.
And just know that they are not broken no matter what the world tells you. Start showing the world otherwise.
Yes, and that is perfect. That reminds me of the Einstein quote that says, it talks about if you try to teach a fish to climb a tree, it'll spend its whole life thinking it's a failure. And that's what I'm hearing you describe right now is, we got to stop making fish climb trees. Let's teach them to swim in the genius pool that they actually are part of.
Absolutely.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Jamie. And thank you to all of our wonderful change makers for tuning in and hearing who's here, because that's part of the goal of Unity for Wellness and Peace is we want collaborations. We want people to find each other with like mission, like purpose, like cause. Let's get together and build out those solutions that create the world that we know in our hearts is possible. So thanks for being here. We'll see you next time on our next interview. Take care, everybody.